Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. We'll start the Protection and Policy Committee meeting for Monday, March 11th. It's now 6 p.m. Roll call. Alder Scannell.
Here.
Alder Grant.
Present.
Alder Morgan.
Present.
Alder Stevens. We're all here. On to approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the
Do
agenda.
we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. On to approval of the minutes for February 26, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, on to regular business.
I make a motion to suspend the rules from items 1 through 6, excepting number 4.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. All right, staff,
No objections.
please. Thank you.
You concur?
Absolutely concur.
All right, motion to approve. Do
Motion to approve.
we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. Oh, little housekeeping. Everything that we discussed and approve or is a recommendation to common council for the next one, which is March 19th at 6 p.m. On to number 7, consideration.
Four.
Oh, number 4, sorry. Consideration with possible action on request by Vic Theater Green Bay LLC at 217 East Walnut Street to request an extension of the assurance of his liquor license to May 31st, 2024. Attorney?
So I just mentioned, as I mentioned previously, or in the last meeting when this was an extension for consideration, I think we granted this extension a couple times. We have no available liquor licenses in the city, and so someone coming in has to get a reserve license. This is one of the few that we have that's not operating, hasn't been issued, but it's been granted. So again, it's discretionary, but we just note that we're granting a license for a business that isn't able to be issued, isn't operating.
Okay. Any question?
Do you know the reason for the extension?
The applicant's here.
I was going to say, I make a motion to open the floor.
Right,
Sorry.
All right, do we have a second?
But there was, also there's a document in your packet as well.
Second it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. The owner?
Steve?
I'm up already?
You're up already?
Okay.
Your name and address, please.
Pardon?
Your name and address.
Steve Schneider, 2031 Ledgehaven Court, De Pere. As you know, I bought the Vic Theater. It was sort of a mess. It still is a mess. We, are looking at preserving the liquor license. We had extended it, hoping to be open, and then we entered into discussions with the people doing the Shower and Schumacher and looking at doing a bigger piece, and felt that this was going to be wasted money because we were doing a temporary thing just to protect the liquor license to open every 60 days until we do the full renovation. And I don't know what the solution, and right now, I think that the city is recommending to not renew the option on that, which opens it up for some plans that we were looking at doing. But, if I can't extend it another time, I'll have to apply for a reserve license, not the end of the world, I guess. My other question that I have, that I probably should have explored before this meeting, but just thought of this afternoon, is I have a reserve license at Black and Tan. Could I move this license to Black and Tan and give up that reserve license?
Are you able to answer?
I don't have the information about that license just right in front of me, but we could get back to Mr. Schneider on that. It's a reserve license, I'm not sure that, I'm not positive a reserve license can be transferred.
It can't be, so that's my issue,
Yeah.
because if I could transfer this one to Black and Tan and just surrender the reserve license, it would give me more flexibility in the long term,
Then you could apply for a reserve license for the Vic.
when the Vic is ready.
Ready. Is that,
If that's all a consideration, I would probably suggest either holding it till the next meeting, then we could explore those other options. But
I'm trying to work with the city, I don't want to give up the liquor license, and I could I could do some bogus stuff to probably pass an inspection in the short term, but that's not the answer. You know, the answer is we want to renovate the theater. We want it to be a dinner theater with 350 seats. We want to have an executive retreat center up in the old balcony. So, you know, and then there was a proposal to do an event center next door at Schauer and Schumacher. So we looked at connecting that whole thing. At that point in time, there was also some issue, I think, with some things perhaps going on with the little building in between there. You know, that we wanted to see how that may play out. So, you know, and I know time isn't in my favor when I've extended twice before, but I hope you understand it's not that I'm trying to string the city along. I'm trying to be as upfront as possible with what we have to deal with, and I think that eventually we'll get a good development there.
Any idea on when the VIC will be ready for, when you'll be ready to apply for, let's say, provisional for the VIC?
Well, at this point, if the city turns down the extension on the development agreement, then I'm going to go back to a temporary thing where we're working with Mark Stoyer on doing a little music museum on the second floor, and we'd have a bar with the music museum. And so we'd be going back to the temporary, which then I'm spending money that in the long term, yeah, I'm probably going to end up tearing it out anyway, but that would be, you know, and if I'm going to do that, it's going to be done by the end of May, because then we just turn the water on, fix all the leaks, turn the bathrooms back up, put some railings in where there's never been railings, and just, you know, and we've already, you know, diced down the area of the license to just the front foyer basically, because we knew that the rest of it isn't going to pass. You know, how it passed in the past, I don't know, but it did, so.
Okay.
So that's my spiel. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to close the
Yeah,
floor.
motion to close the floor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it.
I'll make a motion to hold, and hopefully this can be worked out, and with, you can take
Until the next meeting?
until the next meeting.
Okay.
And I hope that works out, otherwise I think it's gonna be, you know, tough to grant another, but it won't be my call, I'm afraid I won't be here. But,
Should be 2 weeks.
next time,
Yeah.
25th?
From today.
We're gonna have a meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, never mind. Motion to hold,
Until the 25th?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, ayes have it.
Yep.
On to number 7, consideration of possible action on the appeal by Miguel King regarding denial of his operator's license. Attorney?
I'll defer to Captain Allen as to why his
Captain Allen.
license was denied.
So looking through his record, he's in a fourth OWI, which is a felony. That happened in 2018, so that's the automatic denial. Looks like, however, he has completed the treatment court and does have a reference for that. So the felony is the reason for the denial.
From 2018?
2018. That was a fourth offense OWI.
Any question?
I have no questions, and given the information we have and what was in the packet, I have no problem granting this appeal unless somebody wants to open the floor to
Yeah, motion to open floor.
second.
Second. Mr. King?
Yeah.
No, come on.
Good.
Aye.
Just state your name. Oh, aye. All
Aye.
in favor? Aye. Okay, we're good.
Yeah,
State your name and your address for the record.
Miguel King, 1349 Stewart Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
And where are you seeking employment?
So right now I'm currently working at Mackinaw's Bar and Grill.
Okay.
Pretty well-known, established business, been around for a little over 20-some years. They just asked that we get our bartender license, and this is the first time that I've actually had to working in the restaurant industry as far as it's required by all bartenders. And obviously my reason that I just kind of questioned like why I got denied is quite a bit a long time ago, and seeing that Moving forward, I have obviously my probation officer, the judge as well, showing that I made a lot of improvement and also grew through the Green Bay's first OWI court treatment program, passed everything, got through counseling as well, and also still today remain sober as well. So just kind of look back and I think about that OWI treatment program and think it's about change and how we can grow and become more mature and learn from our mistakes, and it's kind of what I'm looking at and trying to do, pushing forward, so.
So you're a bartender there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, for sure.
How long have you worked there?
I just started there, I believe it was officially like in January, December. Prior to that, about August is kind of what brought me to there. I had like a freak accident where I tore all ligaments in both of my ankles. But yeah, sorry. But I was doing like management, so I was the general manager at the Creamery downtown. And then after I left there, I was there for about 5 years. I think that I left there in about, I think it was 21, 22 or so. I decided to kind of start up doing my own management consulting business. So I finished school for business management. And then I also started doing like entrepreneur startups as far as helping some businesses get open in the area. A few of those, Baba Coffee, Bay Area Burger Company, the OC as well, Nash Wapanon. Doing all that, and then the accident kind of happened, took me completely out of my game where I was unable to walk for about August to November, and then started walking again, getting back in the groove. And then I re-tore the ligaments in my right ankle because I didn't do the proper strengthening, training, stuff like that. So looking for something a little bit more easy where I didn't have to take on a full business, and that's what brought me to bartending at Mackinac, and I think that was about mid-December actually, if I'm not mistaken, so
Well, congratulations on your sobriety.
appreciate it.
Any other questions?
For me.
Motion to close the floor?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Motion to approve the appeal.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it.
This will go to the council meeting next
Okay.
Tuesday, the 19th.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? Number 8, communication from Alder Scannell, District 7, for consideration consideration with possible action to adopt in one reading an ordinance banning conversion or repair therapy. Oh, this is yours, so speak
Okay,
away.
yeah, well, I see by an email from an alder, already, some alders are a little perturbed already, and this really, let me give the backstory here. This started before COVID. Someone from the university, and I couldn't find those emails, approached me to possibly pursue a ban of this nature. And then COVID hit, and everything went sideways, and it was put on a back burner. And after COVID, I just kind of forgot about it some, and I didn't really, even at the time, I didn't think it was a real pressing issue. I did not know of any therapies happening here in Green Bay, and I didn't think even any were happening in our state. But just recently, I was reached out to again. There was a forum on this topic at the university 2 weeks ago, and that's what got me motivated here to put this in. At that forum, I learned that this is happening within our state, far more than I care to recognize, and I find it very disturbing, and it would be better, I feel, to be proactive and make a ban in Green Bay. 14 other cities within our state have already done so, than to be reactive, because it could happen at any time. That if it's happening in our state, someone could start this in our city at any time. So I would like to get ahead of the curve and pass a ban, and I'm hoping that we can get unanimous consent on the council. For me, this is, no matter what your political leanings or feelings, I know this has been politicized a little bit, but basically what we're talking about here are practices that torture children because of their sexual preference. And I should hope that we can all agree that torturing children and adolescents, no matter what we think or believe, is wrong, and a ban is more than appropriate. So I looked about and got, as you can see, the ordinance from Racine, which is hardly a hotbed of liberalism. They passed it, as well as 13 others, Cudahy and all kinds of other cities. I don't think this is going to take a lot to touch up. My motion would be to refer to staff to see if there's anything they would like to amend or any language they want to change, and bring it back to council, and hopefully we can pass it in one reading.
I assume we, I
Questions?
was gonna say, do we want to open it to the floor first, or?
Whatever.
Jackson?
Either way, we talk about it and open the floor, or whatever, I don't care. If anybody's got any questions for me?
I have a
or-
question for you. Yeah. Can you
Okay.
kind of walk us through how that looks for our city? Who oversees this? How does this look and how does it work?
It's just, it'd be a ordinance, and anybody who has, like any ordinance that's violated, it depends on someone coming forward to point out an offender, and police investigate, and then it goes to, they either find cause and issue citations, and it goes to court, or they don't,
So it'd be the police department to enforce?
like every other ordinance, yep.
Well, not the SPA ordinance, that's our inspections department.
Well, this isn't an inspection ordinance.
That's why I'm asking for clarification.
Yep, no, this is a regular.
So what happens if someone has an appeal? What if there is, so would that all be part of the investigation? Who decides would that go to court if there's not an agreement
It
on
would be
what
the
was
police
said?
who would investigate any violation, and whatever they determine, would then, action would follow accordingly.
And who handles the appeal?
If someone, well, they have their day in court. If someone, like any violation, they can either say, yes, I did this, and
What if
pay up, or,
the thing you sent us an email of
Mm-hmm.
receipts, it doesn't specify a lot of stuff. It doesn't say penalties.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yep.
That's the original one.
$1 to $1,000.
I was reading it.
We just got this today, so-
Yeah, sorry, I tried to get it in the packet, and I flubbed. I sent it to the wrong person.
I have a couple questions for staff. I guess law would be a good one. So as a city, we have the power to enforce private counseling sessions between people?
So I think generally, it's important to take one quick step back. So those ordinances, I should say that we just did sort of a cursory review of this because the communication came in at the end of last week, and that's about usually how far we work on something until council tells us to work on it. But in looking at those ordinances, there's a variety of ordinances, resolutions. Some of them specify that there is enforcement in the municipality, and perhaps municipal citation would be issued. Or in some cases, they're referring the matter to prosecution by the Department of Safety and Professional Services, which is a state entity. So the question on authority and whether we can enforce it here and issue citations, if it would need to be referred to the state, that's a question that we would have to look into a little bit deeper. And I know one of the municipalities that passed one of those ordinances is currently involved in some litigation. Again, something we'd have to read more thoroughly as to what would be appropriate avenue, what options you all have, which would be part of the referral to staff if you choose, which would be, we'd get back to you on what we believe we could do and what we can draft.
Okay, and then I have, I guess, a question for police. I don't know if you guys can answer this. As far as staffing goes, how would this impact you guys?
I guess it's hard to say, depending on what the, if we don't have an organization that's doing these things in the city, we probably wouldn't have much of an impact. If we do, it would take an investigation for sure. And probably a long investigation. I would assume there'd be some kind of CAC interview with a child in this kind of case. So there's some work to do.
Okay.
And more education of the officers.
Yes.
And so I know you said it's happening in the state. Do we have examples of where it's happening here?
Yeah, we weren't at this conference, so.
Yeah, no, it's still not, as far as I know, it's not happening in Green Bay. That's not the issue. I'm hoping that by passing this ordinance, it would be it would prevent people from trying to do it in Green Bay, as it would be hoped. But if they do, then we're ahead of the curve. We're not being reactive, we've been proactive. I mean, if someone's practicing this in Green Bay, and then we gotta pass a law, I mean, we already have someone who's a victim, which hopefully we're getting ahead of and we're preventing now.
I'm gonna be making a motion to open the floor because we just got this Friday. We haven't had time to study. I've gone on the internet because I never heard of it before, truthfully. And I want to have either scientific evidence or medical evidence to prove that there's people in our community that are being harmed by this.
Well, there's,
And I think it's bad government by us to just vote on something that we don't know anything about.
Should we
So
open the floor?
I think we should open the floor.
I mean,
Motion to open the floor.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, floor is now open.
Alder Stevens, I think we've received one request to make public comment ahead of time, Mr. Guzicki, ahead of time. And then there's a number of people on Zoom, so take it however you'd like.
One in-house, one on the
Well,
floor.
one person submitted a form ahead of time, but obviously anybody can speak that's here. And then there's a number of people on Zoom, so take it however you'd like.
My name is Eric Drzwicki. Address is 632 South Roosevelt, Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I personally think that this is an issue that should wait until after the elections. It is a charged issue that does have a lot of strong feelings on both sides. Partially because the idea of what constitutes conversion therapy can vary depending on who you ask. And in a lot of LGBTQ issues, there is a lot of we're in a lot of new areas right now, a lot of uncharted territory. There's a lot of things regarding what happens with minors and young individuals. And there can be issues now that are relatively uncharted when a lot of bans first took place, where maybe some conversions were happening in the other direction for young people, and then parents, a year or two passes and parents say, wait, my kid has actually changed their mind, they're not that, and then there are potential issues where the therapy could be looked at as, well, the parents are just changing their mind for something they said was okay a couple of years ago. But beyond that, I do think, again, the timing of this is not appropriate. We have an election just around the corner, and I think that that election is going to give us an entirely new picture of who may be in the office and who may not be. And I think it's better suited for that. The other issue that I do have concerns about is just honestly what the proper scope of government is at the local level. These sorts of issues involve a lot more professionals and experts than we generally have. And there's, like alders have said in other meetings, there's only so many things you guys can be expected to be experts in. And to craft policy or to mirror policy from other municipalities, that might not fit with our community. And if this isn't a problem we have here today, we have so many other real problems that are hitting us on the daily that we need to react to, that I don't think we have time to be addressing these issues. Now, some of you alders received emails and calls from me in the past when I opposed bringing up the pride flag issue again, because I figured, hey, let's not have all of these bitter partisan debates about flags and all these things. I am really a anti-partisan issues on both sides of the coin. And if this issue is really just, we as a city want to signal our virtue, man, we got a lot of potholes to fix before we have time to signal virtues. So that's what I'd like to present.
question for you.
Yes.
The purpose of this is to keep people from isolating children and keeping them from food and water until they convert. Electric shocks until they convert. Being bullied and pressured and pushed around until they convert, and then being bullied and pressured to participate in other conversions. There are obviously, clearly, practices that are torture, that are clearly, no matter what your partisanship, should be considered horrible, and we could all, I should hope, get together and say these practices are not acceptable. That's all this ordinance is looking to do.
So there's a question?
Yeah, is there a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
Well,
I'll
that's what
respond. I'll respond. I do believe that torture is already against the law
Right.
in the state of Wisconsin, so I don't know if the council would be establishing any new laws. I don't think shock therapy is legal on children for any purpose, even if they're Bears fans. So I don't think that there's anything that could happen here that would be creating new laws against torture that don't already exist. I think this is a point to make a specific partisan statement that sometimes gets broadly interpreted to suggest it's happening here, right? We have had a lot of cases in our city where people have maligned the character of our city, saying there's a bunch of these terrible people and they're all racist or they're all thugs from Milwaukee, like, oh, both sides of the coin. And then it's not happening here, so there's no point in us outlawing or making municipal rules about stuff that's already illegal. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, if somehow shock therapy is legal for kids, then we need to get the Senate and the Assembly of the state in action, so.
Nope.
We'll take someone that's on the line first.
They can hear you, you can ask them to unmute and speak.
If you unmute, you'll be able to speak on this agenda item. Anybody?
Anybody on Zoom wants to comment, you can unmute. You can come back to him, I guess.
Okay. All right, come on.
Hi, my name is James Harris. I live at 515 East 5th Street in Shawano, but I'm a student here, so I'm here more than I am there. I'd just like to state that I am in favor of banning conversion therapy. This isn't the kind of thing I ever really had an opinion about, but then I had a son who likes playing with Barbies and dyeing his hair pink and absolutely no interest in any stereotypical boy activities. And the idea of trying to force him to be somebody he's not is kind of heartbreaking. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't work, because when I was in high school, I realized that I was really bad at talking to women. And I tried really hard to change teams, but it just didn't happen. And trying to force someone to be something that they're not is terrible, it's inhuman, and it goes against the American ideal of being true to who you are, rather than what someone else tells you you should be. That's all.
Thank you.
Yes.
As a parent, do you feel you should have the right to make the choice on what is right for your child as far as medical or mental treatments and stuff?
As a parent, I believe my job is to help my children be the best possible person they can be. I don't think it's my job to force them to be what I want them to be.
But do you think it's right that a city can tell you what your child can have for medical treatment?
Well, the city can already tell me what the child can have for medical treatment. Like, there are so many procedures that we don't do anymore. Like, you can't get a lobotomy. There's tons of regulations saying exactly what you can and can't receive for medical treatment, because they're scientifically validated. Just like the American Psychological Association has stated that conversion therapy has no benefit and it's harmful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this item?
I just admitted someone on Zoom, so you might want to announce again in a second. Final time. You can use your indoor voice if you want. Anyone on Zoom wish to comment on this item? If not, we'll finish comments. So let's keep on.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor?
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Okay, discussion.
Yeah, if I may. This is something that is happening in our state. There are survivors in our state who have reported out the treatment they've had. And it's been tortures. Nothing that is acceptable to any of the American Psychological Association, the AMA, on and on and on, all the alphabet soups. None of these procedures are considered medically sound or beneficial. And that's all I'm looking for to outlaw here. If someone wants to make this a political football, that is on them. I am not talking politics here. I'm talking about our children in our state who have been tortured, and I'd like to pass this law to make sure this doesn't happen in Green Bay. It's as simple as that.
Do we have an alderman on Zoom who has raised his hand and would like to speak?
Yeah, Chairman Stevens, am I recognized?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, I guess from a person on the council who's on my way out the door, I'm just a little perplexed with Alder Scannell's request about being a single reading ordinance. Is it his intention to get this passed during this existing council term, or is this something that a future council meeting will discuss beyond our March 19th meeting?
I'd like to get it done before I retire. Since I'm bringing it up, I'd like to see it through to the end.
So March 19th is our next council meeting, so
Yep.
I honestly don't think that unless we have an emergency meeting, that this is enough time for a law department to, because you're basically at this committee, you're making a vote, and then the full council considers the vote of this committee. So if this committee decides to hold this, delay this, refer to staff even, our council at our meeting next week would be considering the motion made by this committee. So, I mean, from a timing standpoint, I'm opposed to it just for the basis of it not being good government, that we're trying to get something rushed through in a month, a week and a half from the first time that any council member was notified. I just think members of the community on all sides, both sides of the issue, or maybe every other side that we're not recognizing, needs to be informed of this so that we can make a good decision as a full council. This seems like a week and a half from the time that this was introduced to the time that it was adopted. There's a reason why we have second readings of ordinances, and it's to notify the public, all members of the public who may have a vested interest in this. So I'm just a little skeptical of the timing. Just seems like if something needs to be done, it should be done with the thorough amount of public input as possible.
I find that very interesting, because it was just a little while ago that this council rushed through in one reading, changing an ordinance that had been in the books for decades about the mayor having authority over this building for security, that the council voted on just like that. No second reading, had to go barreling through it. I feel this is far more exigent than a law on the security of this building than when you're talking about students, back up, children and young adults being tortured over their sexuality. That, I feel, is very important. And once I found out, like I said, this was on my back burner. Once I found out that this is happening in our state, and it is happening in our state, it could happen here in this city at any time. And I would really like to get ahead of the curve. And to me, it's very simple. We can very easily, quickly determine. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here. There are ordinances already. We can quickly look at that and determine what's the best way to go here and adopt that very quickly. Either we're for protecting children against abusive practices, or we're not. It's as simple as that. And I should hope we could be unanimous on that. I don't see this. I know in the state legislature it's been a bit of a political football. We're not the state legislature. It's unfortunate that they have passed this over and set it aside. I think it would have been much better if the state had dealt with this. They're not. And because they're not, cities have to step up. And 14 have. 14 have. We're not doing anything radical here. We're not jumping way out ahead of everybody else. We're going to be number 15. So I see this as an issue that deserves some urgency. I wish if like I said, this all kicked me into gear going to that forum. If that had been a month earlier, I would have brought it up much sooner. Unfortunately, I I got the information when I got it, and I can only act on what I know, so there we are. But I don't see this, if we take the politics out of this, if we could please take the politics out of this, and simply look at what is happening to some children and adolescents in our state, and pass a ban so that we can't have that in the city of Green Bay. That's all we're doing.
Chairman Stevens, I
Yes.
had two things. I would just remind the council that the reason why the council acted so quickly on the security of City Hall is we were being sued. So we felt as a council, on the vote, I think like 9-3, 8-4, whatever it was, that we thought that the prudent thing to do was to disengage the camera devices or the audio recording devices. So that's issue number one. Second issue is that right now, the only people within our city government, or at least the city council, that has before them potential policies for us to vote on and adopt an ordinance is Alder Scannell and a couple members of the Protection and Policy Committee. So a week and a day from now, we're expecting the full city council in a single reading to make a very big decision, which I'm not saying the council should or should not. It's up to each council member to decide what's in the best interest of their district and the city. However, just the fact that only a few members of the public are here for this meeting, that tells me that the word has not gotten out. And I don't think it's good nor prudent nor good government to rush to a decision in literally 10 days in a single reading. I don't know how anyone could, despite your best intentions, the best intentions of Alder Scannell and perhaps his very virtuous motives here, but it's not the way to do government, do a single reading ordinance like less than 10 days before, after a council member came forward with an idea.
Alder Stevens, could I offer procedural clarification? So one thing, on the first reading, that's really something you all would have to take up at council when the ordinance is on the agenda for a first reading. That wouldn't be something that we would draft into the ordinance, that it was upon first reading.
Right.
And then just in terms of drafting the ordinance, I mean, my assumption was if you recommend it for approval and council approves the referral to staff to draft, it's very unlikely that we could turn it back around from next Tuesday to be on this agenda for the next PNP meeting, which would be the 26th. And then it would ultimately go to come back to council on the 16th. But I'm not sure if you had something else in mind, but that would be the absolute fastest. But it seems, like I said, you can require us to do anything in the amount of time, but that would be almost impossible turnaround to have it drafted and back on the agenda for protection and policy for our next meeting. Because it wouldn't be approved potentially until Tuesday. And then we publish the agenda for this meeting on Friday.
So your recommendation, it would come back after?
I mean, you could still refer it to staff, I'm just saying that it may not, it's unlikely that it would be ready for that timeline.
All right, well, if it can't be ready, then, but my emotion would be to refer to staff. And I was hoping we could get it done quickly, but if we can't, we can't.
I mean, we could follow up and have more about the timeline on Tuesday, if that's the desire to refer it to staff, you could add that timeline, if it's referred to staff on Tuesday, to have it back at a certain time. But the one reading also is something that you take up when it's on the agenda as a first reading.
Did you have a question? Jennifer?
I do. For our police department, so things like Alder Scannell's mentioning apologies.
Good.
Things like withholding food, torture, electric shock therapy, is that, that's neglect, abuse, is that correct? Those are all, as we stand, illegal,
That's correct.
no matter where it's happening, whether it's a church, an institution, a private counseling session, it doesn't matter, those are forms of torture and abuse.
Correct.
So someone could file a report and that could be investigated and moved forward as is.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just trying to understand the difference of laws in this ordinance.
We have another Alder who would like to speak.
Sure.
And I think we need to.
Go for it.
Thank you. Alder Scannell, I was just going to ask you, and part of me says, yeah, you're right, moving forward, but, Alder Burnett brings up the fact too that, it's 10 days, we don't have a chance to look at everything. I just wanted to ask you what you're talking about torture and this and that and the other thing and what's going on in the state. I mean, I haven't seen any of that in terms of information that I've gotten. Where have you gotten that information from? I mean, are parents doing that? Are professional medical people doing that?
Professional medical people are doing it.
I just want to understand the dynamic a little bit. I kind of know, but in your estimation, what's going on with all that?
It's professional people that are doing it. The ordinance would be that there would be, I mean, if, I suppose you didn't get a chance to look at the ordinance that was, I gave as an example.
But who's telling the
But-
professional people? Are the parents saying, yeah, go ahead, do that to my child? Or are they
Yes,
doing-
the,
I mean, they have, I mean, the parents would have to give up their rights in that sense. to-
well,
or-
they're not giving up their rights,
Well, they're
they're,
not, they're giving up their, yeah, okay, maybe that's the wrong terminology. They're handing it over to the medical people to
Right.
do something. Okay, so, I mean, I've heard that, you know, hearsay over time, but I'm just wondering how specific you've gotten with the research you've done and what's there. It
what was
seems like they're
presented to
still-
me was that within our state, right now, there are children and there are young adolescents who have been through conversion therapy, which is based on aversive strategies, where you use, shocks and well, let's just call it torture procedures and strategies to get the outcome that you wish to have, change your
I guess
behavior.
The hard thing I have, the police are saying that it's illegal, okay, so how are they getting away with this?
I do not know that. I have not heard anything that the people who have been brought this forward and have been working toward this, it obviously needs more than just what's on the books, because it's happening and nothing is being done to stop it.
So you're saying if we go online and check, we can
Sure.
find out a number of these things?
Yep, there are survivor stories out there.
That's all, thank you.
Well, first of all, as a father of 4, grandfather of 6 at this time, my consideration is definitely not to let anybody be tortured, but as we've explained, as Law has mentioned, as every day we turn on the TV, we hear about the poor young 3-year-old in Manitowoc. His parents tried doing stuff like this and are sitting in jail now under possible charges of child abuse. We have proof that stuff like that is not allowed. And as I said, when I asked the other gentleman, do we want to take rights away from people to get medical treatment they wish to have? Do we want to be as a city that says you can't do that? I think that's, might be abuse for someone that wants to have this treatment. As a 40-year police officer, whenever I found a violation, I had to prove there was something wrong. I had to prove to the district attorney, I had to prove to the judges that there was a crime committed or something. At this point, we haven't seen this. We were heard it was spoke about at an agenda at the university. I want to have either medical or scientific proof that there is something like this going on. And right now, I think this is bad government. I've seen this since Friday. I've spent the weekend trying to go on the internet for something I'd never heard of even before. And I'm going to vote no on this. It has nothing to do with,
Right, and if I
if
may,
anybody wants
the
to-
law says conversion therapy does not include counseling that provides support and assistance to a person undergoing gender transition or counseling that provides acceptance, support, and understanding of a person or facilitates a person's coping, social support, and development, including sexual orientation neutral. So, I mean, we are not trying to keep people from getting any kind of help they need. The whole purpose is to stop abusive practices.
what you submitted though is that you are planning on banning something. That
Yeah,
they
you-
won't be able to do it.
No, this is part of the law that I'm pushing. The ban is practice or treatment performed or offered for a fee with the goal of changing an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity, including but not limited to efforts to change behaviors, gender identity, or gender expression, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings toward individuals of the same gender or sex.
So what are you banning?
We would be banning any practice
That
that
does that stuff.
does that stuff.
So
But
you're
counseling
banning
is
people?
included.
Yeah, counseling is medical.
No, this kind of counseling. Counseling that says, you're a homosexual, you are bad, you need to change, that's not counseling.
Is
That's
that what-
abuse.
Is that what people are saying counselors are doing? They're telling
Yes.
them that?
That's what conversion therapy is.
But do we have the right for someone to say they want to go there and have it from some
These are
counselor that
not-
does not say that?
These are all forced on minors, on children, and on adolescents. No one is going there of their own free will. These are forced.
Some people are sending their children for gender reassignment surgeries and stuff. Is that something we're going to ban next?
That would be a separate issue. We could take that up if you want, put it in communication, we could take that up. This is not the same thing.
I'm still going to vote no.
I think we have someone who wants to speak, so motion open, excuse me, motion
Second.
open the floor.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Can I just state my name again?
No, I'll do it.
So one thing that Alder Scannell brought up that I think we should also consider is there has been litigation in some areas of the state. And so the risk of crafting an ordinance too hastily to meet deadlines, we've already got litigation regarding the cameras and the recording devices. We don't need more litigation. We don't need more expenses regarding that. I think that if it is determined that something should go forward, and again, I think that's up to council, it should be a well-thought-out, narrowly crafted ordinance so that it doesn't unintentionally prohibit certain things that may be freedom of religion protected activities that could then open up lawsuit potential. Because there is a difference between bullying and suggestion. There is a difference between shock therapy and, having a sit-down discussing what somebody's, preferences are and decisions. And so we want to make sure that when we pursue something, that it is honed appropriately, and that the risk of having negative action brought against us as a city is minimized. That doesn't mean we don't go forward with it, but it perhaps means that wisdom is a slow pace, because as the officer already stated, the intense activities that Alder Scannell brought up, which I think we all agree are inappropriate, they're already illegal. And so the more nuanced concerns that may exist, that requires a nuanced and carefully crafted ordinance. So, thank you.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, I've got to take up.
Yes.
Are you for or against this?
So I am against it as stated now. I am not necessarily against it in a carefully crafted ordinance. I'm against it as a rush-through ordinance. I do believe that there is some level of partisanship to the haste at which it is crafted. At the same time, I believe that Alder Scannell is a person of high morality, so I am not trying to say it is intentional bad faith. I want to stress that, and if that wasn't made clear, making it clear now, because I love Randy, but I do think that caution would suggest care in how we craft something like this, so that we don't unintentionally catch strays in a church that's maybe just having a Bible study and everybody in the circle says something, right? That could, if the city tried to cite that, that could turn into a lawsuit. And that wouldn't be what we want, even if we all agree, if the church was sitting down putting a shot collar and somebody arrests the whole dang lot of them, so, yeah.
All right, thank you. Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Well, my motion would be to refer to staff, and I was hoping, since, there are laws and everything out there, that we'd be able to turn this around quickly, but staff, of course, needs to take as much time as they need. So it'd be just to refer to staff, and they bring it back as quick as they can.
Alder Johnson?
Yeah, Chair Stevens, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. What?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of great points have been made on this discussion topic, and I tend to agree with Alder Burnett that I think it would be a bit hasty, to really push through any ordinance to kind of meet an arbitrary deadline. I think we want to make good decisions as a community. I think giving every topic its due course is important. And I think, to Alder Scannell's point, though, I think we can all get on board that, look, shocking kids, that shouldn't be allowed, right? And I think there's just more questions than answers right now. And so I do support a referral to staff, because this is an important topic that we ought to talk about. You know, and I think it's okay to be proactive about topics, right? We don't wait for a murder to occur before we say murder's not allowed. I mean, you can certainly detect when things are being done that shouldn't be done. And so, we don't have to rush this, but I think it is important that we refer it and have the conversation. You know, one of the broader issues that I think we ought to talk about, you know, of course, is what is happening with this at the state level. Because the last thing I want to do too is political theater, right? Where you kind of go through and you rush us through and say, we did this, look how great we are. And then all of a sudden, someone in Bellevue, Ledgeview, De Pere, you know, Alloway still had the ability to do it, and we've really not had any impact at all. And it also seems to me that there are layers to this, which haven't been fully discussed yet, and I think that's the role and responsibility of our law department, is to really break that down and say, hey, maybe there's a couple of different tiers with how we look at this. Some things, you still retain parental control, while other things clearly should be prohibited. And I'm okay even if it's a redundant statement, right? So we know it's criminally not, from criminal law, it's not okay to shot kids. I'm okay with making a statement that doubles down on that. But I do want to make sure that we are protecting as many parents' rights as possible, while still protecting the health and well-being of children, which is ultimately something that we all should care about. So just wanted to at least say that I do like the referral to staff. Give this the time that it deserves. Let's not rush it, and acknowledge maybe the shortfalls that exist in our current law that can help close that gap.
Great, thank you. I do feel like it's rushed.
I have a question. I have another question for Laura. Sorry. With the referral to staff, can we wait to see how this litigation plays out? Or would that be more of a recommendation to hold until that litigation plays out, and then we can refer to staff based on that outcome? I'd hate for you guys to waste time on something that we may not have a standing on. You guys have a lot of things to take care of, and I really don't want us in another litigation. I think it makes a lot of sense to slow down. But I also think you guys have a lot on your plate, and I just don't know if that changes the recommendation.
You could still refer it to us to work on, so unless there's some other priority given, it would just go next in line after the current list of ordinances that are being drafted. But some additional research needs to be done, and I do think if you refer to staff, we're probably going to watch more closely what's happening in the litigation, which commenced in 2022, so I'm not positive where they're at in the process, but I think we would take a look at that. And also I think it would help us in terms of drafting, if we are, what that lawsuit entailed. I know there was an issue about the individual that Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty is representing made a comment about medical and religious, and we had some preliminary conversations about what an ordinance should look like if we drafted it to avoid some of those pitfalls that maybe have happened to La Crosse. And I don't know a lot more details about that case, but to answer your question, briefly, if you refer it to us, we would be monitoring and working on it, and there's no specific timeline of when it would come back. Whenever you would request it, or whenever it's ready with options. I think in this situation, looking ahead, we're more likely to provide a memo and give you some thoughts on where we think the law is at currently and what we think the best recommendation is. As I said earlier, some municipalities have resolutions, some have ordinances. Some of those ordinances refer just to the state for enforcement, and some are potentially issuing citations themselves. And one of our follow-up items would be to ask the municipalities that do have this, what enforcement have they done to date?
Okay.
Was that not clear? Because you can
No,
ask
it
me a
did,
follow-up
but
if it wasn't clear.
I just,
And I'm satisfied with that. It felt weird to me to bring this up and then pass it on to another council, which is why I was hoping I could get it done quickly. It's the only reason I put the rush on it is I thought, I was not aware there was a lawsuit in play, and I thought that since we weren't reinventing this wheel, this might be able to go quickly. So that was my hope and my thinking, that it just felt weird for me to bring something up that I'm not going to follow through on. I wanted to try and follow through on it, but if that can't happen, certainly, staff should take the time they need. So I'm fine with referring to staff, and if I don't see this through, I don't see it through.
when was this panel?
2 weeks ago. The soonest I could put in a communication was last week.
Okay.
Alderette? you do.
Okay, well, and, you know, I know that I've been part of working on ordinances and some take over a year, correct? So this isn't something that you do quickly. You take time on it, but I feel it is doubling down, and I don't think it's necessary to put in an ordinance, put any staff time towards and spending money on something that is already illegal. So I would be against that.
Thank you. Alder Grant?
And I got a motion to refer to staff.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to refer to staff. Do I have a second? No second.
Do you want to second it?
No.
Okay. Well, that's my motion. Someone else can make a motion.
I'm going to motion to place on hold. I'd really like to see the litigation play out. I really think our staff's time is very valuable. And unless I see that the ordinance does something higher than what the state level does, I think we're creating a false hope that we can make something better. And I don't think that's fair to that community that may have some real issues that we need to think about. So I don't think this ordinance is the answer to that. So at this time, I receive and place on hold.
Did you want to receive and place on
Or
file?
I'm sorry.
Or hold it to a certain date?
I'm
Just one or
sorry.
the other, you're fine. Hold is to a specific date and then
Yep,
receive and place on file. is
hold
just
until the next
correction.
protection and policy meeting so that we can get more public awareness and education on this.
Okay, for the
So we vote
26th?
on it
The
in 2 weeks.
25th.
The 25th, I'm sorry, I said the wrong date.
But that's not gonna give us time enough to
Apologies.
hear what's being said at state level, is it?
Is that, well,
I'm sorry, what?
holding is just
Receive and
bringing
place on file
time
is-
for the community awareness.
Receive and place on file is killing it. Receive it,
I understand.
coming back.
Yeah, that'd be mine, receive and place on file.
Well, there's a motion to hold.
Have a second? Or are we going back to the first?
Go ahead.
I make a motion to receive and place on file.
So back to the first.
So I'm sorry, your
Right.
motion got a second, so you need, I'm sorry, did the motion to hold it to the meeting got a second? Did you second
No.
that?
No, there was no
There was
No
no
second, so that motion failed as well, so you can make a third motion if you'd like.
I make a motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Well, okay, all in favor?
Oh, all right, to speak on that.
Go for it.
Yeah, I oppose that, and I will pull this at council. So I think a refer to staff is more than appropriate. And to say we need to wait for a court case that started in 2022 and God knows when it's going to end is not realistic. Certainly refer to staff, and staff takes the time they need. I was hoping it wouldn't take much, but apparently it would take some time here, but it's appropriate to just refer this to staff. So that will be my recommendation when we get to council.
I just want to state, I make this motion because I do feel we haven't had enough time to research this, and I do not want to take anyone's rights away. I feel that we have everything in state statute can handle this.
The
As I
state has
said-
refused to handle this.
Well, someone hasn't made the complaint then. But as I said, I'm a grandfather. They're just, last week, I went and watched my 7-year-old and 3-year-old granddaughters dance. My 5-year-old and 3-year-old grandsons want to dance. My 3-year-old plays with Barbies. And I've talked to their parents. They have no issues with that. I have no issue with that. It has nothing to do with that. I just have issues with the rights of a parent especially, or anyone, to make their own choices. So that is why I've made this motion to receive and place on file.
Thank you. All right.
And I would encourage, if people are experiencing this, that they go to the law enforcement since it is illegal. And I do have faith in our police department to take these very seriously.
I concur. All right, we have a motion and a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
No.
Ayes have it. Oh, one no. Thank you. All set? Okay, on to the next. Consideration of possible action amending GBMC 2-324, Section H, related to solicitation of funds. Attorney?
So this is a change to Chapter 2, which is our ethics code. It's particular to the section on solicitation. We were talking in this instance with parks about events and things that sometimes the city gets donations, but oftentimes staff actually ask for them. The example was like Kids Day, but we have other events. And we realized a strict reading of the ethics ordinance prohibits staff from asking for donations and receiving them. So it's a very simple couple sentence exception that does allow for the solicitation when it's approved by the director. And it's for a city project or event, so I'm not looking at the language, but that's what it is. It's just an exception that allows staff, under the direction, approved for a city project or event to ask for things. And like I said, I gave the example of parks, but other events and things, the city does take donations for events, and also the Conservation Corps is a good example. We had trees donated, things like that, just wanting to make sure that staff hasn't run afoul of the ethics code for doing these types of activities.
Any questions? Over.
How would this affect our great older ladies have gone and made an effort and started this fire department's fundraising thing?
It's just
For the alders, yeah, so this exception is just for staff. The
Yeah.
alders have sort of a separation between staff and what you can solicit and those things. And technically, that's for the
Organization.
foundation and not directly to the city.
The foundation is what I meant to
But
say.
this
So it
is
says
for
for,
staff only, not for alders.
For organizations, because I was looking at that too, I thought
Yeah,
about
that's
that,
what
yeah.
they're doing a great job, and I definitely wouldn't want to see that go to, or not.
Oh, no, that's fine. And this actually allows staff to do more. It's not a further restriction. We were restricted, and we just saw an issue where we wanted to make sure that they weren't running afoul of the ethics code by getting donations for special events and projects and things like that.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept, approve.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Informational liquor violation report. Please.
No violations to report.
Thank you. Clerk's licensing report, please.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
I don't know if either of you even know. I look at this on Facebook, Brown County Scanner thing, and they always talk about, there's one bar on Main Street that constantly gets calls. Do we get information about something like that, or what? Because a lot of it, I notice, is called by their security staff, actually.
Yeah, there's that, and then if there is something there, it's not necessarily related to the liquor law stuff. It could be a disturbance in the parking lot, it could be a myriad of things that aren't directly related to the establishment or their liquor license.
If you determine it is related to where they're running their business, at one point, when you get so many, do you bring that to us then to terminate their privilege?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I need.
Okay. Deputy Clerk?
Yes, so the city has 3 Class B beer and Class B liquor licenses that have been granted but not yet have been issued. And at this time, we cannot take any more applications for available liquor licenses.
Thank you. Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive it and place it on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. How about adjournment?
Motion to adjourn it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. We're now adjourned.